The Trinity Alps are not kind mountains. They rise sharp and sudden in northern California, their granite peaks jagged like teeth against the sky. The air here smells of pine and stone. The rivers run cold and fast, and the forest stretches endlessly, dark, impenetrable, alive with whispers. For generations, hikers have come chasing solitude and challenge. Some leave with memories. Others never leave at all. In the summer of 2015, one such hiker shouldered a pack, tightened his boots, and stepped onto a trail he thought he knew well. His name was Daniel Reeves. He was 37 years old, an accountant by trade, a lover of the outdoors, and perhaps too confident in his ability to handle what the wild might throw his way. That morning, he parked his car at the Canyon Creek trailhead. It was an ordinary sedan, dust-covered, parked alongside trucks of fishermen and SUVs of families out for the weekend. Inside, he left his wallet, some change, and a half-finished bottle of water. He locked the doors, slung his pack across his shoulders, and disappeared into the forest. Daniel never came back. For 5 years, his name was whispered in hiking groups, posted on missing person flyers stapled to ranger station boards, muttered by locals and small diners. His family begged for answers, but the mountains gave none. Searchers walked ridges, combed creeks, sent dogs into ravines. Helicopters scoured from above. All for nothing. Until, in the fall of 2020, a hunter moving through dense brush spotted something strange buried beneath leaves and soil. What he uncovered sent shockwaves through the community and reopened the mystery of Daniel Reeves. But to understand what was found, we must first understand who Daniel was, why he ventured into the Trinity Alps, and how a simple hike became a haunting disappearance. Daniel Reeves was, by most accounts, ordinary. He lived in Redding, a town about 2 hours from the Trinity Alps, where the hum of cars and grocery stores faded into the call of the mountains. Friends described him as quiet but determined. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't naive. But he was searching for something bigger than routine, something wilder than office walls. He hiked often, sometimes alone, sometimes with friends. He loved the Trinity Alps specifically for their rawness. They weren't crowded like Yosemite or polished like Lake Tahoe. Here, the trails felt untouched, the silence heavy. For Daniel, stepping onto those paths meant shedding the noise of his life and breathing in freedom. But freedom has a price, and the mountains demand respect. July 11th, 2015. The sun rose over the ridges in a pale, orange haze. Temperatures promised to be warm by afternoon, but the early morning was crisp. Daniel had told his sister he planned a 2-day solo hike up Canyon Creek, aiming to camp near Sapphire Lake before returning Sunday evening. He carried a small tent, a sleeping bag, food rations, and a single map folded neatly in his pocket. Other hikers reported seeing him that morning, striding confidently along the trail, nodding and greeting but keeping to himself. He wore a red jacket, hiking pants, and a baseball cap. His pace was steady. Nothing about him seemed unusual. But somewhere along that trail, Daniel Reeves vanished. When he failed to return home Sunday night, his sister assumed he decided to extend the trip. But when Monday arrived and he didn't show up for work, alarm bells rang. Daniel was punctual, responsible, and rarely missed obligations. His employer called his family. His family called the police. By Monday afternoon, deputies were at Canyon Creek trailhead. His car was still parked neatly where he'd left it. Inside, the same half-empty water bottle sat in the cup holder. But Daniel was gone. The search began immediately. Rangers assembled teams by sunrise Tuesday. Helicopters circled overhead, their blades echoing off granite walls. Volunteers from Redding and Weaverville joined trained searchers. Some carried radios, others carried hope. Everyone carried fear. The terrain was merciless. Canyon Creek twisted through steep valleys, its waters churning white against rocks. Trails branched unpredictably, some ending at cliffs, others fading into nothing. Heat rose by noon, baking the granite until it radiated. At night, temperatures plunged, frost creeping into the soil. Searchers shouted his name into the void. Dogs sniffed tracks that led nowhere. Every snapped branch raised hope. Every scrap of cloth was bagged, as potential evidence. But nothing pointed to Daniel's fate. By the fifth day, exhaustion set in. Helicopter fuel ran low. Volunteers blistered and limped. The Reeves family stood vigil at base camp, watching as teams came back each evening with empty hands. Daniel's sister wept openly when rangers admitted there were no clear leads. "It's like he vanished into thin air," one rescuer said. As the weeks passed, theories swirled. Some believed Daniel had slipped while crossing the creek, swept into rapids that carried him miles downstream. Others suggested he had climbed off-trail, chasing a view or shortcut, and fallen into one of the hundreds of hidden ravines where a body could remain unseen for decades. But darker whispers spread too. Locals recalled reports of marijuana growers deep in the Trinity Alps, protecting illegal plots with armed guards. Some suggested Daniel might have stumbled upon something he wasn't supposed to see. Others spoke of hermits, men who lived off the grid and mistrusted strangers. Without evidence, every theory was speculation. As months turned into years, Daniel's case went cold. Flyers yellowed on bulletin boards. News stations stopped covering it. His family clung to hope, but learned to live with absence. Birthdays passed uncelebrated. Holidays fell hollow. His niece, only 8 when he vanished, grew into a teenager who spoke of him in past tense. For the Trinity Alps community, Daniel became another name on a growing list of those who had entered the wilderness and never returned. His story joined the legends told around campfires, warnings of how quickly the forest could take someone. And then, in the fall of 2020, the mountains stirred again. A hunter trekking through dense underbrush 5 miles from Canyon Creek Trail noticed disturbed soil. Something half-buried caught his eye, metal glinting under a blanket of leaves. Curious, he knelt and brushed it away. What he uncovered froze him where he stood. It wasn't an animal's den. It wasn't a lost hiker's gear. It was something else, something that had been waiting beneath the earth for 5 years. He staggered back, heart pounding, before radioing authorities. The discovery would reignite Daniel Reeves' case, and with it, a question that would haunt investigators and family alike. Had he truly fallen to the wilderness, or had something far more human and far more sinister taken him? The hunter stood over the disturbed earth, his heart hammering. At first, he thought it might be trash of rusted tin, maybe a piece of abandoned equipment. But as he cleared more soil away, he realized what he had found was deliberate. A shape began to emerge. A backpack, worn and faded, its fabric stiff with time. Next to it, the outline of a boot. His throat tightened. When deputies arrived hours later, they cordoned off the site. Carefully, methodically, they unearthed the items buried beneath years of forest growth. A red jacket, a metal water bottle, a tattered map folded in a plastic sleeve. Each piece was logged, bagged, preserved. But the most chilling discovery came last. Beneath the pack, beneath the soil and leaves, lay skeletal remains. Humans. And in the pocket of the red jacket was a wallet. Inside, the driver's license of Daniel Reeves. For 5 years, his family had lived with uncertainty. Now, with the forest floor opened, the truth was undeniable. Daniel had been here all along, hidden just beyond the reach of search teams, swallowed by the mountains that he had loved. But what investigators couldn't answer was how he had ended up there. Forensic anthropologists examined the remains. The bones told a partial story. They showed signs of weathering, of exposure, of years spent beneath soil. No obvious fractures or trauma suggested a fall from height. No teeth marks pointed to predation by wildlife. The backpack's condition suggested it had been deliberately placed in a shallow pit. It wasn't scattered, as if by animals. It wasn't discarded, as if dropped in haste. It had been buried. Why would a hiker bury his own gear? Investigators considered 2 possibilities. The first, Daniel, lost and disoriented, may have attempted to shelter or conceal his pack in some desperate act of survival. The second, someone else had been involved, someone who wanted his belongings hidden, his presence erased. The second possibility raised an even darker question. Had Daniel encountered foul play in the forest? When the discovery was made public, theories returned with fury. Some insisted Daniel had succumbed to exhaustion, choosing to rest where he could go no further, his remains later covered by soil and debris. Others argued the careful burial of his gear suggested human involvement. Local law enforcement revisited old leads. They interviewed hikers, hunters, and residents who had lived near Canyon Creek in 2015. Stories of marijuana grows in the remote valleys resurfaced. Some recalled hearing rumors of hermits, men living illegally off the land, suspicious of outsiders. Could Daniel have stumbled upon something he was never meant to see? Could someone have silenced him and hidden the evidence beneath the forest floor? There were no answers, only speculation. For Daniel's family, the discovery brought a strange mixture of relief and renewed anguish. His sister wept when authorities confirmed the remains. "We always wanted closure," she said. "But this isn't closure. This is pain all over again." For years, they had imagined him alive somewhere, perhaps starting a new life, perhaps held captive, perhaps still walking the trails he loved. Now those hopes are gone. What remained was grief, sharpened by the haunting mystery of how he had died. At his memorial service, photos of Daniel hiking, smiling, and holding his niece were placed beside the recovered items: his red jacket, his map, his water bottle. For many, it felt like a final goodbye. For others, it felt like the beginning of darker questions. The hunter who had stumbled upon the site spoke only once to reporters. He said the discovery had changed him forever. "I came here for a game," he said quietly. "Instead, I found someone's brother, someone's son. I'll never forget it." He never returned to the Trinity Alps. The Trinity Alps are vast, stretching more than 500,000 acres of jagged ridges, dense pine forests, and glacial lakes. They are breathtaking, but they're also indifferent. Some experts argue Daniel's fate was likely an accident. He may have become lost, buried his pack in confusion, and succumbed to exposure. Others say the burial of his gear is too deliberate, too calculated, to be dismissed as desperation. Without conclusive evidence, both explanations remain possible. What is undeniable is that the Trinity Alps have claimed many before Daniel, and will claim many after. They are a wilderness that offers beauty but hides danger, not just from cliffs and rivers, but from the secrets people may leave behind. The discovery of Daniel Reeves, after 5 years, reminds us that wilderness mysteries rarely give clean answers. Sometimes they give only fragments, bones beneath soil, belongings half-hidden, clues that lead to more questions than solutions. For Daniel's family, the forest is no longer a place of peace. It is a graveyard of what could have been. For the community, it is a reminder that safety is fragile, that even the experience can vanish, and that closure often comes too late. The Trinity Alps stands silent again. Hikers still step onto its trails, chasing views in solitude. But some pause at the trailhead longer than before, remembering the story of Daniel Reeves, a man who walked into the forest and never walked out. 5 years later, a hunter brushed away leaves and soil, and the mountain gave back its secret. But even in revealing, it concealed, because the wilderness doesn't speak. It only waits. If this story unsettled you, share it with others who follow true crime mysteries. Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments. Was Daniel a victim of the wilderness, or of something darker hiding in the Trinity Alps? And make sure to subscribe for more cinematic true crime stories, where silence holds secrets and every mystery has a voice.